Here we are. Welcome. Hello, hello, my beloveds. How are you on this fine day? It is intense. We are going through another really interesting phase of this kind of extremely expansive part of our journey right now. Ever since this last 2 weeks kind of took off, we are now in this phase of kind of what I'm calling the jitters just before flight. Anybody else feeling that? A little bit of pre-flight jitters? Yeah? Well, you're not alone. I know I'm feeling that. And a big part of it is simply because we have come through, tell me if you can relate to this, okay? You've come through a huge period of expanding into so much more of who you really are. And that brought clarity as to what you want, who you want to be, what you want to be doing. And then when you have the clarity, isn't that extremely, extremely empowering? Right? Yes, it's very empowering. But then what do you have to do next? You have to take some steps forward. And so that's where this kind of pre-flight jitters starts to take place, because we know at a soul level that we can do this. Whatever that thing is that you are getting ready for, this next piece, we know we can do it. But at the human level, we're like, okay, I was all excited about that. Finally being aware and realizing that I could do this. This is possible. And now it's like, okay, great. You know it's possible. Go do it. Anybody relate to that? Yeah, if you can, please type a note in the chat below. It's a very real thing. It's a very real phenomenon. And it's really just a big, beautiful piece of growth and expanding into who you really are. And what else? Letting go of the old version of you. You've heard me talking about this all year. It is not new about this idea of letting go of the old, letting that part just fall away. And this is why. So as we go into this second half of 2024, we are very literally stepping into our very first moments of this brand new type of creation cycle. We've never had access to this kind of energy before. We've never been able to embody as much of this higher version of us, this higher expression of us than we are right now. And so the steps that we're taking feel more doable than ever. You guys relate to that? Yeah? And at the same time, it's still a little unnerving. There is a difference in the whole creation cycle. There is a very distinct difference between getting to the place of clarity, right? Where you finally know. It's no more of the unknowns of like, oh, I wonder if, and I don't know, and I don't know which way to go, or I don't really know what this looks like yet. That's one point of the expansion in the creation cycle. But the next piece is, once you have that clarity, isn't clarity, I like to joke about it and say, like, clarity is the best drug on the planet. Would anybody agree with me? Yeah, because very few things feel as amazing as having complete clarity on whatever it is, whether it is something that you're struggling with and you finally have a big picture of like all the details. Like, okay, give you an example. Let's say taxes is probably a good one. Let's say you've been avoiding getting into really good organizational structure when it comes to money or taxes or just your paperwork in general, right? That feeling of not having clarity brings a lot of unease. And it's the kind of thing that rides in the subconscious, it's in the back of the mind, and you can't get rid of it. So it doesn't matter really what you're doing, what kind of awesomeness you're experiencing in other areas of your life. If you don't have that taken care of, it's kind of like the disastrous closet or your incredibly messy garage, for example. You can't escape it. It's always there. So that is sort of like the precipice of until you get clarity. So even if it's like something that you really have been dreading, like for example, maybe getting up to date on taxes or paperwork or financials and really knowing, especially if your mind is saying, man, I don't really know what I'm going to find. I don't think I'm going to like what I find, because that's what the mind, the lower mind, the ego mind will do. It's going to inevitably fill us with the worst case scenarios. Now, why does it do that? Do you guys know why it does that? To keep you stuck, yes. But why? Why is that such a clever thing to do? Because if you're afraid that this worst case scenario thing is going to be at the end of your journey of excavating or exploring something, you're going to be a lot less likely to want to go anywhere near cleaning up that mess or finding out more information. And so its favorite thing to do is plant seeds of doubt or fear about what you might find, so that what? Its very best friend will jump into the driver's seat, which is procrastination. So you never actually do it. Maybe you never get organized with your financials or your taxes, for example, right? Just pulling these out as examples. Or cleaning out your closet, or the garage, or whatever it is, right? And the whole reason is because the more of these things that the ego mind can leave as burdens, because they are. You feel that? It's like an energetic burden when you have stuff undone. It's all these open loops of things that are unfinished. And unfinished things don't give you clarity. So we've just come through a huge period of actually stepping in, and even if it's just small steps, but being able to make order out of chaos during this time has been extremely valuable. And I know even in the chat, and the live chat, and then in the chats afterwards that we're having in the comments, it's been really beautiful to see you guys talk about, the things that you are already feeling called to do and have already done in the areas of getting clarity. And that involves things like clarity within the body too. Some of you last week were commenting about how you're doing a detox, or you're doing some kind of cleanse, something that is addressing the body. So we're completely holistic. So whether it has to do with money or love, relationships, if there are loose ends are like frays. And frays are not smooth and clear. And if they're not smooth and clear, these edges of the things that we're playing with, we don't have that clarity. So that's just been like part one of this really multi-stepped journey that we're on at this moment. So we've gone through the expansion, we've identified what felt messy, what needed attention, and there may still be more, but we've done part of that. Then we've stepped into this amazing world of clarity. Is there anybody, or let's just say, if you have reached a point of gaining clarity on something, I'd love for you to type it in the chat, type it in a comment, share that with us, because I would hazard to guess that there is not one single person that, if you sat down and just were still for a moment, couldn't say that you didn't get more clear on one thing in the last, let alone months, but just even the last few weeks. And that getting clear, gaining more clarity, can simply be more of what you don't want. That's a form of clarity, wouldn't you say? And going back to like the financial or the taxes example, doesn't it still feel great when you have clarity around the details that you've been avoiding, but you dove into it and now at least you know? Like you know where you stand? 100%. 100%. And the influence of the planets, the planetary bodies that are in our environment right now, is really making it possible for so much truth to come to the surface, for us to be able to discover more of the unknowns or these secrets that have been hidden. And some of these secrets are really, they're not so unaccessible to us. It's like literally in your back pocket, but you don't want to look because we're afraid of what you're going to find. And it's the fear of the unknown that is worse a million times more than what we actually discover, right? If you're ever in that position, I'm going to give you something to play with as a tool that you can use to just get yourself unstuck. Because the faster you can start moving out of that place of like resisting diving into something to create order, to create structure, to create clarity around something, the faster and the better you're going to feel. And the more empowered you're going to feel, because you came up against something that was presenting a block. And instead of shying away from it, hey, Joey. Yeah, oh, Joey says here, yes, I have lots of new clarity on several issues, and it's wonderful. Thank you for sharing that, Joey. Thank you. Yeah, I can totally attest to that, and I'm loving that you're finding the clarity. Yeah, and it does feel great, right? Yeah, even if it's clarity about things that you don't like. So Joey, was it clarity that you found on something that was like all good news, or was it clarity around something that maybe you were resisting because you were afraid of what you were gonna find? Which side of the spectrum was it for you? I'm curious. But either way, you will find, don't listen to the lower mind, just simply go ahead and commit to yourself. I don't care, I'm doing it. You're gonna feel so much more empowered as you come out of it. And then, which is where we are right now, it's this next step of like, okay, now you have the clarity. Now what are you going to do? What's your plan? How are you going to move forward? What's going to be your first step? Who's in that place? I'd love to know who is in that place and how's it feeling? So going back to the title of this live stream, it was like, yeah, it's all difficult but necessary. Oh, brother, I love it. I love it. I'm going to put it up here. It's all difficult but necessary. Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with it, right? This is a time more than ever that if you are going through a tough time, that you can guarantee and know for sure, you can know for certain that there are millions, if not billions of people all having very similar experiences that you are in their own way. And that's totally fine. You know, we came here to play with different things, similar things, but different things, unique to us. But it's always going to be something that is specifically designed to rattle you just enough so that you can expand into something more, so that you can become who you came here to be. And don't ever guess or don't ever think that what you're struggling with is too much for you. And I know that the mind can let you believe that. But one thing I can guarantee you of, you will only ever get as much as you can handle. So if you think you can't handle it, you are simply misunderstanding your own capabilities. It is kind of like a spiritual law that whatever adversity you're facing, whatever challenge you're experiencing, the human us will look at it and sometimes feel like, I can't do this. Like there's no way I can make it through this. Why on earth, in more religious terms, God, why have you forsaken me? We have not been forsaken, right? We have been given exactly what we ordered. Why? Because we knew we could break through it. You got to remember, this is a planet designed for the biggest ninjas so they could have the biggest breakthroughs. So if you've got somebody that is like considered a ninja, right? What's a ninja? The ninja is like the super elite Navy SEAL. It's the one with the highest skills. They're the best at what they do. Basically, no one can mess with them, right? And they go into the battles and they come out victorious. So if you are a ninja, which you are if you're here at this time, and you're drawn to this work that I'm speaking and doing, you are. So if you're a ninja and you're looking for a real challenge because you're a ninja and you're like, come on, what are you asking for? You will customize a challenge for yourself so that you can have a powerful experience of a powerful breakthrough. So if you're going through something right now and it feels like, oh my God, I don't know if I'm going to make it through this, or how on earth am I going to make it through it? Just know, yeah, you picked it. You picked this challenge because you knew, oh, I've done this before. I've got this experience in my repertoire. And when I take those steps and kind of bust through the fear and do it anyway, I'll be able to call on that. It'll show up. You made an arrangement between your higher self and you, and more, but we'll just call it higher self and you, that if you needed to, you could call on it. So when we're at this place now where it's like, okay, I got to take these next steps, what do I do? And you feel nervous. Joey says it's nice to be seen. Yeah. 100%. It is. And that's another thing too, Joey, you just reminded me of that. It's important to remember that we are not alone. I remember back on earlier parts of my journey when I suddenly, it literally felt like suddenly, realized, and it really hit me that, oh my God, I'm never alone. That my soul, my higher self really, which is a combination of the energies of the soul, the physical body consciousness, the human entity consciousness, when all these aspects of my being were always present and highly invested in my life and what I'm doing and ready to listen and to support. When I realized that, I was like, oh my God, this is a game changer. Because from that moment on, it didn't matter if I was absolutely alone for indefinite periods of time. I never actually felt alone. And if I was struggling with something, I no longer felt like I had to be the one to figure it all out myself. I realized like, oh yeah, we're in this together. Oh yeah. So like you're actually here to support me and I'm here supporting you. Oh yeah. So there's strength in numbers, right? Right. And technically we're more than one. Okay. This is a lot more fun. How many of you really are in that awareness that you are not alone in every moment of every day? Joey, you said great description. Why I wasn't paying attention when your chat came through. What are you referring to specifically? Which description? But I'd also like to know, please let me know in the comments, are you in the awareness, or do you find that you know it, but you forget that you are not alone? Let me know. This is one of the most, of never being alone. Thank you. Okay, just so I know where you're at. Yeah. Yeah. Does that not feel really good, like to know? Because it's the truth of who we are. And that's why it's called the illusion of separation. Because we're not really separate. I was thinking about something else on this same topic this morning while I was on my walk with Theo. And it was about the illusion of separateness. And the awareness came flooding in around every breath we take. We are breathing in literal particles of someone or something else. And as we exhale, we are sharing particles of ourself out with the rest of the world. As you walk through the forest and you breathe in, you are breathing in not just the essence and the energy, but actual particles, pieces of the living creatures that you are walking through the forest with. You are breathing in particles of the earth, of the worms, of the trees and the ferns and the plants and the water. It's all there. If you continue to reduce with a magnifying glass deeper and deeper, yes, there seems to be separation with like even the edge of a cell or the edge of your skin, but you go further and everything is just this mass of particles flying around, seemingly being held together by what? By consciousness. So we are more connected than we realize, and we are more together and in this together and walking together than we're really aware of. And I would invite you, on your next time you are walking down the street, in the forest, anywhere you see trees, try this if you haven't. And if you haven't, do it anyways, just for me. But look around and come into the awareness that those trees have consciousness. We could talk about this for days, but just this one point, that the trees around you, for example, and or the flowers and the grass, but just look at some of the natural stuff in your environment. They have consciousness, and as you walk by, you're not walking by inanimate objects, but they're watching you. More to the point, Joey, of never being alone, right? They're watching, they're admiring, they're celebrating you, they're connecting with you. And they're more deeply connected on a few different levels than we're aware of. But just having the awareness that that consciousness is present with you outside when you're in nature, for example, changes the dynamic of how you experience the natural world. That is a big part of 2024, and it's going to become an even bigger part in 2025. The natural world coming alive, and our awareness and connection to the natural world, as Theo rolls around over here, it's going to become more and more pronounced, more palpable, and really more intimate and more beautiful. We have some trees here in the neighborhood where we live, and when the builder built the properties here, they didn't really consider the trees that much. Usually, from what I understand, there's pre-planning work done where they hire arborists to come in and decide where they can excavate so that they're careful not to break some of the roots. Well, that didn't really happen here. So there was a lot of trees that had their roots severed in places that did some damage. And so there was a tree at the corner of our property, technically as part of the common area in this community. But nonetheless, it's kind of on our corner. And because of that injury to the roots, this tree, its roots were left exposed for a very long time. And then the top of the tree started to die. So it looked very full on the bottom, but the top was sort of dying. And so I wasn't aware, but there was a request to have an arborist and their company come in and remove a couple of trees that seemed like they were potentially hazards, because we get a lot of wind here. We're right off the water, the bay, and it's windy. And so I didn't realize that they were coming to do this today. And so it was an interesting experience to have, as I am very much feeling connected to the nature here. But what ended up happening was I walk outside and I see the trees gone, which is better than walking outside and honestly for me to just see them starting to cut it. But the tree was gone. And the person who ordered the work to be done was explaining, yeah, this one and another one. And they're right, like the trees are in not great shape and they could fall over and someone could get hurt. So it made sense to remove them. But what came to me was, oh, it would have been really nice to know ahead of time, just so we could have said, thank you. and just had a few moments with the tree before it was removed. And, we don't maybe always think about this, but if you allow yourself to get connected just a little bit more to the things that are in your own natural world, you'll feel this connection and feel supported that much more. But it's kind of acknowledging that we are on this journey together, including with the things that seem like, oh, it's just an inanimate or independent living thing. There's just a lot available to us in our environment and in our world that is really, we're living together with these things. So Joey says, it recently seems easier, to feel connected to nature or to some people. It's nice. Yeah, I was going to ask that. Have you guys noticed that? Yeah. So I hazard to say nature because it's interesting. We are nature ourselves, but we think we're separate. So we say, oh, that's nature and we're humans. But I totally get it, Joey, and I'm with you. So there is a deeper connection that is forming in this year of 2024. And if you look around, I was actually in communication with Gaia yesterday on my drive home. And I drove into the city and I was driving north, and there's so much forested land on the way up to where we live. And I was looking and just in amazement of how lush everything is and how beautiful, like lush is the best word that I can come up with. It was incredible. And I was like, well, is this just because we've been getting more rain and there's been less sun on some of for our summers here? And it was like, no. There was two parts to it. One, we're waking up, right? There's this ascension process that's happening with the entire planet, not just us as an aspect of the planet, but with everything on the planet, and especially things that are green and glorious. And then in addition to that, the rays of the sun have changed. So the sunlight that is hitting the earth is different. Do you guys notice that? Yeah? So it's the same light codes that is supporting us in our ascension and expansion and elevation to raise in consciousness, raise in frequency. It's the same light that is coming in and nourishing the plants, nourishing the animals, enlivening the soil. It's all happening, encoding the water. So despite what we may think or simply not think, the planet is ascending in the same way that we are, through encodements, through activations, through transmutation. So when you look around and you think, this looks more lush, this looks more beautiful, it is. And the same thing is happening to you on a cellular level. So this is a topic that I absolutely love. The biology of ascension, I like to call it. And, well, we're at 4 o'clock now, so we'll end on time today. But let me know what parts of this resonated with you, what parts you enjoyed about our conversation today. And thank you for showing up. I really do appreciate engaging with you, and I love being able to have these conversations each week. I look so forward to them. So with that, my brothers, my sisters, I'm sending you so much love. Enjoy the rest of your week and stay tuned, because I do have an exciting announcement about an abundance activation challenge that we're going to be doing, probably starting in about a week and a half. So watch for that. In the meantime, have yourself an incredible rest of your week. Soak in the energy. Schumann's been spiking. More on that later. Yeah, and you're doing great. I love you dearly. Bye for now.